Most doctors think the solution to their growth problem is simple. I just need another therapist. It's not. It's not simple, and it's definitely not that. In fact, hiring another therapist is one of the fastest ways to make your practice feel more out of control if your structure isn't in place first. And I'm seeing this happen over and over again. Doctors come in saying, I'm overwhelmed, my schedule is full, my team needs help. So the next move seems obvious: hire. But behind the scenes, no clear systems, no defined roles, no consistent patient experience, no real understanding of where money is coming from. And now we're adding another person into that. So, what happens next? You don't get leverage. You get more questions, more training, more inconsistency, more dependency on you. Because now every therapist is doing things slightly differently. Every patient experience varies, and you're still the one holding it all together. So instead of buying back time, you've just multiplied the complexity. And I want to say something a little uncomfortable, but it's important. I've seen doctors invest in solutions, whether it's hiring, digital programs, or support, but they don't actually implement the structure behind it. They don't follow the process, use the tools consistently, or create the systems needed to support it. And then, when it doesn't work immediately and produce results, they assume it didn't work. We're vision therapy doctors. We know better than this. Our patients often say vision therapy doesn't work. And at the end of the day, it was them who did not work. Vision therapy only works as hard as you work. If you're not showing up, if you're not doing the work, if you're not putting the time and effort in, then yes, it will not work. Same thing goes for your practice. The issue wasn't the solution that they implemented, it was the lack of structure around it. This is where ownership matters because no hire, no program, no strategy can outperform a practice that has no structure. If your team isn't aligned, your processes aren't clear, and your expectations aren't defined, then adding more people amplifies the problem. Hiring is not a growth strategy, it's a support strategy. It only works when there is something solid to support. Solid. It has to be solid to support it. Not just like, oh, we have a waiting list. Let's add more therapists into the mix. No. Are you making sure that you're being paid for every patient that you see? Because the doctors I work with, they don't know if they're being paid for every patient they see. Are you sure that your patients are having a repeatable experience? Because the doctors I work with, it depends on the therapist. That's a problem. If your best therapist leaves, then do your patients leave with them? Or is your system, and the patients get the same experience regardless of who they see? That's a system that can then be supported. A system that does not have that consistency cannot be supported. It can be temporarily masked. But I even have doctors who say they hire new therapists because they have so many patients, and then their patients drop out because they don't want to see the new therapist. That's weird. Would you want to see the new therapist? So for me, my therapist cannot see patients unless I would want them to see my kids. That's my standard. If you would not, if I need my kids to do vision therapy and I will not trust you to see my children, you don't get to see anybody's children. That's the rule. But we have a solid training process that goes into having these therapists trained. And so I can hire as many therapists as my little heart desires, and they will be trained the same exact way. They will treat patients the same exact way. Of course, there's personality that goes into it, and some personalities gel better than others. And some people can put up with different things than other people can put up with. That's neither here nor there. But as far as the quality of care, that's the same. So otherwise, you're asking if you have somebody stepping into this thing that has no structure, you're asking somebody to step into unclear expectations, inconsistent systems, and constant decision making. That's not scalable. I had one therapist tell me that she was doing red and green glasses patched for her first month. Hmm, that's interesting. What was the training like for that? Or was it just like you were trained on the floor while watching other people, not really knowing what you're doing, but there's a lot of patients who need to be seen. So go ahead. You're not going to make them worse, because that's a strategy I've seen for a lot of practices for training. You won't make them worse.
What?
That's not how we treat. That's not how it should be. The practices that grow sustainably do things differently. Before they hire, they build clear systems, defined workflows, repeatable patient experiences. So when someone new comes in, they're stepping into something that already works, not trying to figure it out. And what that means is that requires the doctor to step back a bit and figure out what works. We need to be working on our practices, not necessarily always in our practices. There should not be scheduling decisions that are coming to you. If you have not yet figured out when somebody can be scheduled, how long this type of patient's appointment should be, then you need to sit with yourself and figure out how long does this type of patient, this patient persona, like how does this type of situation, how long will they take in your chair? Write it down. Give it to somebody. That's not you. So that then the next time somebody calls who's just like that, they can just reference the system, not reference you. Because when you're not being referenced all the time, you can figure out what the systems are. Then you can treat more patients, you can help more people, and you can feel less burnt out. You can be in your exam not thinking about whether or not something's going the way that it should outside of your exam room. And I know that we've all been there. You should not be thinking about your front desk or scheduling or overhearing a phone call and saying, what the goodness gracious are they saying to this patient right now while you're in the exam room? Because everybody already knows what they should be saying, because you've already figured it out and passed it along. And not passed along to the one other person that you think will never leave, and then they give their 2 weeks notice. That's not who we're passing it along to. We're passing it down to a piece of paper. I guess I'm old. Maybe it's not paper. Maybe it's a tweet. I don't know, whatever. It's like, it's digital, whatever it needs to be. I like paper. Paper is my friend. But if it's an Asana task, if it's a Teams message, if it's a document, like an online document, if it's a Google form, whatever it is, where it is repeatable and accessible to other people. That's what we need to get down. That is what it is to become instead of the operator, just the clinician operator, to being the CEO leading a practice that's actually going to make an impact, a bigger impact than it already is in the world. That's why we're here. That's why we came into vision therapy. That's why we love vision therapy. And we don't want the thing that we love causing us as much stress as it seems like it is with the doctors that I'm working with. This is the pattern we've been talking about. In episode 1, we talked about you being stuck because of your identity and your structure. In episode 2, we talked about how it's not your schedule that's the problem, it's your model that's the problem. Hiring doesn't fix a broken model, it exposes it. So, if you're feeling overwhelmed right now and your instinct is to hire, pause for a second. Ask yourself, do I have something clear, consistent, and structured enough that someone else can step inside and do it and succeed? Or am I about to multiply the chaos? In the next episode, we're going to talk about something even more controversial, the idea that one-to-one care is the only standard, and why that belief might be the very thing holding your practice back. I'll see you there. Let's get building.